Hi and welcome, and let me introduce to you this industry study. The whole idea of this industry study is to investigate something or to do something with a certain amount of novelty. This is the kind of thing that in your future career you're likely to be asked to do a number of times, where somebody either wants to find something out, to solve a problem, or to develop something, and there's an element of novelty about it. And what this study is intended to do is to try and give you some practice at that, and to apply some level of rigor to it. Now, the motivation for this is that there are new problems, new challenges that normally sit just a little bit outside the normal business as usual. When a business has very standard ways of doing things, and this is very necessary. It enables a whole lot of people to do things reasonably well. But every so often, there's something that doesn't quite fit, and the business as usual won't deal with that particular problem. And so somebody with the capability or the ability to investigate goes and investigates. And this is what you're doing. Now, talking about the motivation for this study and this introduction, what I'm talking about now, is because I've found that people tend to simply treat any new problem pretty much the same as any old problem and apply what they already know. And sometimes it works, I have to admit, but frequently it doesn't. You get pretty much the same answer, and it is about as useful as any other answer that's gone before, which is to say it's not very useful. Otherwise you wouldn't be asked to do it again. Now, treating a problem pretty much as something like you've seen before does allow you to use all of the things you already know how to do, and that's in many ways fair enough. But this is usually fairly symptomatic of a rush to the solution. That is, you've got a problem, you want to solve it, right? And there is this strong tendency to think of the answer you want and try and actually justify that, try to prove that's the right answer, without actually investigating the problem itself. So the problem's not treated on its merits, and it breaks down. This whole approach does tend to break down when the problem is deceptively novel. It looks like something familiar, but it's not. It's something a little bit different and needs a different approach to it. Now, investigations are a fairly common practice in business, in commerce, as they are in academia and a number of other places. And we'll see just how prevalent they are as we go on. However, there is a caution, and there's a few fairly slick sayings about it, and the one that comes up a lot is this expression that for every complex problem, there's an answer that's clear, simple, and wrong. And this, I looked it up, it was attributed to H.L. Mencken, who was a commentator, but it's been attributed to a number of other people, including Einstein and I think Dave Hewlett, of Hewlett and Packard, or Hewlett Packard. And this is actually the problem, that what looks simple and straightforward is probably wrong. And if problems were that simple, they would have been solved. They wouldn't come to you for them. Now, the principles of investigations, or as we get to in a minute, not only investigations but design and development, it's pretty much the same thing across a wide range of projects. Like basic research follows the same thing, industrial problems follow the same process, and other small problems do tend to follow the same overall shape. However, there are problems with problems. Now, some of the problems is that past methods of investigating and approaching problems seem less able to deal with complex problems. We are getting to a time and a stage where a lot of what we're dealing with is actually fairly complex, particularly when we're dealing with real world and socio-technical systems. we do something and we usually have an unexpected result. So we're dealing with a complex system that does not react and does not respond in a predictable way. Now, straightforward deterministic thinking won't deal with that well. As I said before, there does seem to be a rush to solution. We think we know what we're doing, and we think we know how to do it. We want an answer. There's an attractive looking answer, and we'll go for that. We tend to use what we already know. That is including the knowledge, the techniques. It's very comfortable to try and use what you already know to try and solve the same problem. However, it is worth taking a little time and effort to fully understand the problem and its potential solutions. Now, we are seeing this a lot in usually in design problems, where people are now beginning to understand they really have to thoroughly understand what the customer is doing, their world, what is going on, before they can actually design a solution, because too many of the systems that we have designed in the past have been designed from the perspective of the developer, who thinks, well, it's obvious, anybody ought to do it like this. And they find that no, they don't do it like that, because the developer's not in that situation. They don't quite know how it's going to be used at all. Now, better solutions do come from having a more thorough understanding of the problem. Now, in this, as I said, there is a convergence of many fields. I've been observing that I'm kind of saying the same things in a lot of different contexts. The convergence is really that you first have to understand the presenting problem, and to do that, the first thing to do is obviously you try to understand what the problem is as it's being presented to you. But you then go and try and seek out who are all the stakeholders and what is it they want, what are their goals in this whole problem, what's their stake in it all. You try to understand the constraints and the risks. That is, the constraints on the solution and the constraints on your investigation, the risks of your investigation and the risks of your solutions. The process of investigation itself, pretty similar. First thing is try and frame the problem, try to understand the problem, and this I suppose you could say this is the business case. What is it you're actually investigating? What do you expect the payoff to be? Who is it going to affect? Then you really have to go and have a look at what is already known about the problem and about potential solutions and about techniques of determining the potential solutions. What do we, the world, already know about this? Now, this doesn't mean you absolutely have to try and discover everything there possibly is to know about the whole problem that anybody in the world knows. That's probably much more exhaustive than anybody would reasonably expect. But you can at least do a fairly simple check. Now, these days with search engines and the internet, it's very easy to go find out quite a lot of information about almost anything, and so you really should go and do that. When you have had a look at what's already known, the question is, why can't you just go and solve the problem now? What's missing? What do you not know? That is what your investigation is going to be about. What do you not know now? The investigation really now has to be, how can we determine what we don't know? Or if you're doing some sort of a design, how do we design something new? Or how do we develop something new? What is it we're going to develop? How are we going to do that? And then, when you've done all that, can you just check that you've actually solved the problem you're supposed to solve? It seems obvious, but too many times I found that I get to see assignments where they come up with a conclusion and it's got no relationship to what they started out to investigate. So that is a summary of the whole thing. This is why we try to do it. The aims of this particular subject or this assignment is to try and introduce you to a little bit more rigor in your investigations than you otherwise might do.